Hi everyone, Petrik here. So we are nearing the end of the year 2025, and I want to take some time today to actually talk about all the best books that I managed to read this year. And of course, if you've been following my Goodreads and also my YouTube channel, then you will know that this year is quite likely the worst reading year for me by far. Whether it's the matter of quality or the matter of quantity, it is by far the worst reading year for me. But this doesn't mean that I did not encounter some great books in my reading year 2025. So yeah, before we reach 2026 in about a week from now, well, I want to take some time today to talk about all the best books. To be more precise, this is the best novella and also the top 10 best novels that I read in 2025 for the first time. As usual, the rules applied. These are only books that I read for the first time. Reread doesn't count. And also, I will only mention one author per book. One book per author, sorry. So yeah, let's get started immediately. Let's start from talking about the best novella that I read in 2025. And this will, of course, go to An Inkling of Flame by Z.B. Steele. And yeah, I absolutely love this novella. I think it is a great novella. This is a prequel novella in a Song of the Dam. Yeah, a Song of the Dam series. The main series begins with Whispers of the Storm, which I really need to get started really soon. It is one of my priority of 2026. But this one, An Inkling of Flame, if you haven't read Whispers of the Storm yet, I think you can definitely start to try to test Z.B. Steele's writing from reading An Inkling of Flame. I know I did the same, and I'm super intrigued to try reading Whispers of the Storm as soon as I can. But this one, pretty much the best way to pitch this as brief and accurate as possible is like Joe Abercrombie's style of writing, well, reminiscent of it anyway, and also mixed with the framing narrative that is popularized by the Kingkiller Chronicle. So you can pretty much say that Joe Abercrombie meets Patrick Rothfuss for the kind of writing or storytelling style you can get from An Inkling of Flame. And this is a military, grimdark fantasy series, and this one definitely tells about the boredom and also the destruction and also the pain that war will bring to people. And I like that. I think in about 100 pages long, Z.B. Steele did such a great job in delivering this theme and also making us readers excited to try reading the main novels. And yeah, so this one will be the best novella of this year. And I think I read only 2 self-published fantasy books this year, and that is one of my biggest sin in 2025, and I need to fix that next year. But now, let's talk about the top 10 best books of the year, the top 10 best novels that I read in 2025. All of these books are books that I rated 4 stars or above. You can pretty much call this list every book that I read in 2025 that actually received a 4 stars or above rating. And yeah, it will be accurate. So let's start from number 10. Number 10, we have Catabasis by R.F. Kuang, arguably one of the most anticipated books by so many fantasy readers this year. And in my opinion, although I'm a fan of R.F. Kuang's writing since the Poppy War trilogy, I read the Poppy War before the Poppy War actually debuted, and I instantly knew that R.F. Kuang will become a big name author, and she already became a big name author now. All of her books are massively popular, and they tend to be incredibly high rated. But this one, it received a mixed opinion, and I think I can certainly understand that. From my perspective, Catabasis is my least favorite book from R.F. Kuang. I still give this one a 4 stars rating, but the first half, I think it takes too long for the story to actually get going. It felt like the first half of the book can actually be trimmed down a lot because it spent a lot of time philosophizing, and also not too many things actually matters to the overall story, in my opinion. In the first half anyway, the stuff that was explained in the first half, not too many of them actually affect the second half. In my opinion anyway, and because of that, this book ended up being too long. But after we actually reached the turning point where we actually started to learn why the main characters want to go to hell, both Alice and Peter wanted to go to hell to save their mentor. Once we get to learn their main motivations, that's when Catabasis started to become so much more engaging, and I really love the description and the setting of this in Catabasis. If you have read Dante Inferno or you know about Dante's Inferno, then you will know that this book is heavily inspired by Dante's Inferno. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. This is, if you're asking about this is the Broken Binding edition that I got to work on together with Kirby Rosales, Jeff Brown, and also Peng Lu. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this one turns out. And yeah, I enjoyed this one. I still look forward to Taipei's Story by R.F. Kuang that is soon to be out in 2026. But yeah, this belongs in the number 10 spot for me. And moving on to the number 9 spot, we have probably the best new debut that I read this year, and it is A Song of Legends Lost by M.H. Ayinde. Yeah, this is the first book in the Invoker trilogy, and to pitch this one, let's just say that this is Shaman King meets Final Fantasy X, or maybe Horizon Zero Dawn. I really think that's the best way to call A Song of Legends Lost. And this is an epic fantasy debut, not without any romantasy element. And I think that is now a rare occurrence. And I really wish there are more epic fantasy debut like this again. I remember back when I started my Goodreads account, I keep on encountering so many new epic fantasy or grimdark fantasy debut, and I remember those great days, and I hope that those days will return again. But this one, it involves multiple POV characters and also deep world building, and yeah, there were some slow burn moments in A Song of Legends Lost, but I think overall everything leads up to a great climax sequence, and I'm excited to read the rest of the trilogy. This is the Illuminated edition that I got with the cover art by Jeff Brown, and I think it is beautiful as well. And as you can tell from the original cover art, or maybe this cover art, well, there are a lot of summons here, summons in this book, and these are the parts that reminded me of Shaman King a lot, or maybe Naruto and Kurama, if you are more familiar with Naruto. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. I think it is a great debut. I gave this one a 4 stars as well. And moving on, at the number 8 spot, we have Network Effect by Martha Wells. So due to the existence of the Murderbot TV show adaptation, I decided to reread All Systems Red and go through the entire series. I read through the entire Murderbot series for this purpose, and also for the purpose of directing the Broken Binding edition, which will be out in 2026. But yeah, because of that, I decided to read through the Murderbot Diaries. I think if you are familiar with my reviews on All Systems Red, I wasn't too well, I did not have too much of a positive opinion regarding All Systems Red, and I was pretty much surprised on regarding why the series became immensely popular. And even though I have read the entire catalog in the Murderbot Diaries, I still think that the TV show adaptation did a better job in delivering the themes and story of the Murderbot Diaries. But if there is one title in the entire series that definitely captivated me a lot in the most engaging fashion, it will have to be Network Effect, the fifth title chronologically in publication-wise, and also the first full-length novel in the Murderbot Diaries, and in my opinion, the best title in the entire series so far. I absolutely enjoyed reading Network Effect. I think the first 4 novellas were great. They were fun, but they were nothing special, and I did not feel completely engaged when I was reading through them. But this one, Network Effect, it brings everything that has been written in the first 4 novellas, and they combine it into this, kind of like the first convergence of the first 4 novellas in this Network Effect, and I enjoyed it. The duo was great. It was really fun seeing Art back again, and there were, more importantly, stakes in the action sequence. Now, from the beginning of the series, actions have always been a part of the Murderbot Diaries, but I did not feel that stakes, you know. It's just seeing Murderbot doing stuff, doing actions, and yeah, it's good. I think it will work better in TV show, and it's proven. I think the stakes were actually better written in the TV show adaptation compared to the first title, All Systems Red. But Network Effect, it gave that for me. There were so many stakes, and the pacing was done really well. It was so captivating from the beginning to the end. So yeah, this one belongs in the number 8 spot, and yeah, I think it is the best Murderbot title in the entire series so far. And let's see whether the new title in 2026 will be able to top Network Effect. And now we arrive at the number 7 spot. This is the last title on this list that actually received a 4 stars rating. After this, we are going to the 4.5 stars rating territory. So first, we have Half the World by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second title in the Shattered Sea trilogy, the supposedly YA series by Joe Abercrombie. And I think I shouldn't have waited this long to actually read the Shattered Sea trilogy. I think many people claim that this is kind of like a lighter version of the First Law trilogy is very accurate, but that doesn't mean that the Shattered Sea trilogy is a bad book. Yes, it is not up to the much higher quality of the First Law series or the Devils, but it is still a great book. It still retains Joe Abercrombie's talent in writing iconic quotes and also great characters. And although the story is more predictable because it is intended for a more younger audience, but the actions, pacing, and writing, I think all of them were still on point. And I know that this is what I would call an actual great YA fantasy title. And I really love Thorne and Bran. I think they're a great duo. I think the first book featuring Yarvi is great as well. I gave both Half the King and Half the World, both of them a 4 stars rating, but if I have to choose between the two of them, I like Half the World even more, even though the 3 books in the Shattered Sea trilogy kind of works like a standalone because every book focuses on a different main character, but they are still pretty much connected to one another. So in a way, this is like the Divine Series trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. But Half the World is my favorite title in the Shattered Sea trilogy. And now we move on to the 4.5 stars rating territory. At the number 6 spot, we have The Radiant King by David Dalglish, and I think this is criminally underrated book. I love this book a lot. I think it is David Dalglish's best first book of a series that I have ever read, but right now it has quite a mixed rating on Goodreads. But this is a Berserk-inspired fantasy title. And being a Berserk fan, a huge Berserk fan, I have read that manga series, I don't know, so many times for the past decades. And being a fan of that series, well, you can definitely see so many countless influence being put into The Radiant King. And the discover art is done by Magali Villeneuve. I actually own the physical copy, but I need to find it in my library. But yeah, back to my point, I think it is great. The actions, and there were turning points in this book near the end of the series, and near the end of the novel that was so reminiscent of the eclipse and the eclipse in Berserk. I don't know whether that's a spoiler or not, but it is. That's awesome in my opinion. I know not too many people were a fan of the flashback portions in The Radiant King, but the flashback portions were actually, well, the best part of the book for me. The flashback portions and everything that came after. I think that's a clever way to actually turn everything that we know about the characters, everything that we knew about the characters, about the story, upside down in such a brilliant way. I really liked the way David Dalglish wrote this book, and I look forward to the sequel. I think it will be out next year. Yeah, the sequel is supposed to be out next year. After the chaotic ending of The Radiant King, I'm really curious to find out how the rest of the series will go from here. But at this one, I gave it a 4.5 stars out of 5 stars rating. Really great book, one of my favorite books of the year. And then at the number 5 spot, we have a book that isn't out yet. This is the only book that is not released yet in this list. And this is For the Daughter of Crows by Mark Lawrence. So it has been years since I actually read anything by Mark Lawrence. I think the last time I read his book, it was for the first book in the Book of the Eyes trilogy. And ever since then, he has completed the trilogy. He has also finished writing the Library trilogy. So I think it has been, 5 years? 4 or 5 years since I read anything by Mark Lawrence. But I got the adventuring copy of Daughter of Crows, and based on the premise, it instantly reminded me of the Book of the Ancestor trilogy, which is my favorite series by Mark Lawrence. And of course, I wanted to read this immediately, and I'm not disappointed at all. I think ever since Red Sister, which is still, in my opinion, to this day, the best book written by Mark Lawrence, this is the best first book of a series that he has ever written so far. But yeah, I haven't read the book that wouldn't burn, so maybe my opinion could change after I read that. But other than that, I have read every first book of a series written by Mark. And yeah, this is the second best after Red Sister. But who knows, maybe on reread, this will become the best one. There's still that possibility because it was the same for Red Sister. But one thing that makes this book so good, in my opinion, is like Mark Lawrence took everything that he has learned from writing throughout the past of his many series, and he put it all into the daughter of Crows. Like, you can see the influence and kind of like the similarity with the Broken Empire due to the grim and dark stuff going on in the Daughter of Crows. And then there's the academy where the main characters actually went to study their battle skill. And yeah, that one is definitely reminiscent of the book of the Ancestor. And the three main characters, especially the main character, the singular main character, is just an amazing character in my opinion. She's like Nona, but more ruthless and violent. And this book is dark, it's grim and dark. And it's kind of refreshing to see Mark Lawrence return to this grim and dark roots of his storytelling. And I think he did such a great job in writing this book. Amazing stuff. It's part Greek inspired, it's also part a dark fairy tale, and everything about it just worked. Even the fragmentary and also a different time frame going on in the storytelling. And yeah, I love the narrative that went through in The Daughter of Crows, and I think many people will end up enjoying this one coming next year. But it is available to pre-order now. The cover art is done by Tom Roberts. And yeah, I look forward to the second book already. And at the number 4 spot, we have Into the Narrow Dark by Tad Williams. I gave this one a 4.5 stars rating. Again, amazing book. I think The Last King of Western Art, it's shaping to become even better than the first series in the Western Art Saga series. So to put it simply, for those of you who don't know, The Last King of Western Art is the sequel series to the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy, and Into the Narrow Dark is the third and the penultimate installment in The Last King of Western Art. The story begins immediately after the ending of Empire of Grass, and it just gets darker and darker. This one is probably one of the darkest title in the entire Western Art Saga so far. Nowadays, I think Western Art Saga, if you look back to the world building and also the many stories that happen in the entire world, well, it is full of tragedy. It is not all heroic and also all good. In fact, if you think about it, I think for me, there's this sense of melancholic and poetic in the writing in the Western Art Saga that reminded me a lot of Tolkien's, and that's kind of why I really love Tad Williams' writing. He's kind of like a bridge from Tolkien to A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, let's put it that way, okay? Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy is the inspiration behind many iconic series such as the Kingkiller Chronicle, A Song of Ice and Fire, and also, I think, The Inheritance Cycle by Paolini. But yeah, a lot of authors are inspired by Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy, and you can tell from reading that trilogy. And The Last King of Western Art is shaping up to be even better than that. It is more matured, the writing is even more well polished, and the pacing is better. Now, although I said the pacing is better, Tad Williams' writing has always been a slow burn. It is not meant to be rushed, it is meant to be savored. The prose is put together meticulously, and you can tell that Tad Williams put a lot of thoughts into every single sentence being put into his Western Art Saga. I haven't read anything by Tad Williams outside of the Western Art Saga, and I really need to get to that after I finish reading The Navigator's Children, and that will probably happen in January, because Into the Narrow Dark, let me tell you, everything, right from the beginning, there is no boring moment, but everything leads to this absolutely insane pandemonium that happened at the end of Into the Narrow Dark. And yeah, I'm still speechless by what happened, and I cannot wait to see how everything will wrap up. I think one of the things that Tad Williams did absolutely well is how he tied everything from Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy into this one. And the main villain here is just, well, let's just say that one of the main villains, the human one, if you have read this series, you will know who I'm talking about, is just so a scumbag. His scheming is just so manipulative, and when you learn the background of this character, that he is actually related to what happened into Green Angel Tower, it just makes sense. It's not forced, and I think this is kind of like the best way on how you actually write a villain in your sequel series. Every action matters, even if you think it is a heroic action, but there is always a consequence to every action, and this book, this entire Last King of Western Art, proved that. And yeah, there were a lot of throwbacks into Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy. All of them I enjoyed. It doesn't feel like Star Wars, let's just say. Yeah, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. But now we have arrived at the top 3 spot, and let me just say this, okay? I know that this probably doesn't sound fair, but I'm going to give all of them the best spot. Okay, these are my top 3 books. These are the only 3 books that actually received a 5 stars rating in this year. So these 3 are the top 3, and also they all earn the same spot as the best book of the year for me. So yeah, let's just start from talking about the first one that I actually finished first. So this is The Fall of Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I don't know why I waited so long to actually dive into The Fall of Hyperion. I think I was insane. I think I actually let the wordings and also people's word of mouth influence my motivation to actually dive into The Fall of Hyperion several years ago, and I regretted that. Thankfully, this mistake has been fixed. I think The Fall of Hyperion and Hyperion is actually inseparable. Yes, it is a different book, but it is not that different when you put the entire narrative together. It fits. It fits the narrative being put in Hyperion, and I will stand on this hill. I will die on this hill. I think it is an amazing book. If you love Hyperion, you definitely should try reading The Fall of Hyperion. Do not miss out on it. Yes, it doesn't have those 6 connecting novellas or 7 connecting novellas in Hyperion, but it is definitely the continuation to the story that was written from the perspective of these characters in Hyperion. The Fall of Hyperion is nothing but amazing. For me, it is one of my favorite sci-fi books of all time. Both Hyperion and The Fall of Hyperion, they were terrific for me. Well, Endymion, that's another story. But this one, The Fall of Hyperion, is absolutely incredible. 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars for sure, including the next one, which is also a sci-fi book. So this is, of course, The Shadows Upon Time by Christopher Rocchio. Of course, this will also go into my best book of the year position, because this is the conclusion to the Sun Eater Saga series by Christopher Rocchio. And I have actually posted a video review of every single book that I read in the Sun Eater series. The main novels, anyway, right from Empire of Silence up to Shadows Upon Time. And I think many of you have asked me, where will I rank this? It is not in my number 1 spot. My number 1 spot will have to be Kingdoms of Death. But this is my 3rd spot after Demon in White. Again, there is no bad book in the Sun Eater series, and this is the conclusion to the Sun Eater. And as I mentioned in my video review, I will not talk too long about this one, because you can check my full spoiler review about Shadows Upon Time. Well, I think Rocchio actually wrote this beast, which is the biggest book in the entire series, and ended it very satisfyingly. Everything that he has mentioned since Empire of Silence, the Sun Eating Time in particular, well, it is here in Shadows Upon Time. And I think that's awesome. And when you think about the scope that is being delivered in the Sun Eater series, and yeah, it is huge. I think it defines the space opera in the best way possible. This is what I want to read in space opera. The multi-planets, the multi-cultures, the so many characters, and there are so many in-depth world building going on in the Sun Eater series. And again, the writing, Christopher Rocchio's writing is absolutely beautiful, and also, well, brutal when it is necessary, as you can tell in Kingdoms of Death, and also in the many books in the Sun Eater series, really. But Shadows Upon Time, the 5 parts, the 5 storytelling parts, that is the staple of Christopher Rocchio's writing. I think they written really powerfully in Shadows Upon Time. I think the first part, which is the flashback portion, to tell what happened between disquiet gods up to Shadows Upon Time, was done in a unique multiple POV chapters. Yeah, let's just say it that way. And then we began the Battle of Danu. And right from the Battle of Danu up to the end, it is non-stop, whether actions, harrowing events, and also absolutely brutal intergalactic political intrigue, and the Sun Eating Time and epilogue. Everything works in Shadows Upon Time. And there are a lot of religion stuff that actually went through in Shadows Upon Time. So when you think about it, it probably felt a bit different in tone compared to the first 5 books in the Sun Eater series. But after what happened in Disquiet Gods, you know, that chapter, I think Hadrian's development toward this fate nature is actually, well, it makes sense. But this one, Shadows Upon Time, kind of reminded me of a Lightbringer series, but it is done correctly because it fits Hadrian's nature, it fits the events that have happened throughout the Sun Eater series, and the ending, I think, it will be one to remember whether you like it or not. And also, Alexander can die. Seriously, I hate that guy so much. I I absolutely hate that dude. I think he is one of the most despicable characters in science fiction. But anyway, if you want to know my full thoughts about how much I love Shadows Upon Time, you can check my full spoiler review of the book on my YouTube channel. And finally, the last number one spot and the last book in the best book of the year 2025, of course, it will go to The Strength of the Few. Yeah, it is another masterpiece by James Harrington, just like Shadows Upon Time. I've talked about this in depth in as spoiler-free as possible in a review that I posted on my YouTube account, and you can check that one out as well. And I think this one, the 3 POV, actually work for me, and this kind of work like a setup book at the same time. Knowing James Harrington's storytelling, I know that he is preparing for a lot of events to go down in the third and the final book of the series. This series is 4 books long, by the way, the Hierarchy series. But this is the sequel to The Will of the Many. I should probably start by saying that for those of you who don't know, a Roman-inspired epic fantasy novel. But this one, well, let's just say that it is now Egyptian-inspired and also Irish-inspired, Irish and Celtic inspired. But I love that. I love all of them, even though the Celtic-inspired stuff definitely took me about half of the book before I felt fully invested, unlike the Egyptian and also the Roman stuff. But I think the convergence that is about to happen, just thinking about the potential and it will happen in the third book, is just so exciting. And this is not saying that this is just a setup book. I know there were several people that said that this is just a setup book, there weren't anything exciting happening. I don't think so. This is an incredibly ambitious book, and I think I'm really happy James Harrington decided to stick with his guts, with his prowess to actually tell this kind of storytelling. Not many authors are willing to do this kind of ambitious storytelling in the second book of a series, and I'm really glad that James wanted to go through with this. And I have been a fan of the Lycaonius trilogy for a while now, and I think the Hierarchy series is a series that will go down as one of the classics in the genre. But again, as I mentioned, if you want to know my full thoughts about this book, you can check out my video review. But my best books of the year, they are The Fall of Hyperion, Shadows Upon Time, and also The Strength of the Few. So this is easily the best fantasy book of the year for me. Well, the best science fiction book, it will go to The Fall of Hyperion and also Shadows Upon Time. Those are the top novella and also the top 10 books that I read in the year 2025. And although this year is not as good reading quality wise compared to all my previous years, because only 30 books. I only read 30 books, and that's usually how much I read in 3 or 4 months. But this is for the entire year, and although reading quality wise is not as good as the previous years, I still had a great time reading some of the books, especially the books that I mentioned in today's video. And I can only thank the authors for writing these stories for me to read, for them to work as my escapism. And I hope my recommendations will work with some of you. That's always my hope with my reviews and also my recommendations. And yeah, that's really pretty much it from me today. And I don't know whether I will be posting a new video on Christmas. Let's see whether that's possible or not. But if not, I want to say Merry Christmas to all of you. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to my YouTube channel. This year, it has been a challenge. It has been challenging reading and also creating content. But I'm really glad that many of you decided to stick with me. And I hope I can deliver better content and better reading recommendation in 2026. I think I will be posting 1 or 2 more videos before the end of the year. But until then, Merry Christmas, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.